Hey girl, what you gonna do tonight? I've got my mama's car keys and you've got a ticket to ride. I'm licensed to ill with a drive to drill, rockabilly roots and a quarter Jack Daniels.
Hello, and welcome to Your Favorite Flick, a podcast where each week we celebrate a movie that my guest loves. We aren't here to be critics, we're here to be fans. Today I'm joined by my brother, Jeffrey Glaser. Jeff is a professional editor who has worked on TV shows such as Tales of the Walking Dead and Peacemaker. Today we're talking about Raising Arizona, a childhood favorite that we revealed to be the greatest movie of all time. Damn, I forgot to give a spoiler warning on that. With our first professional in the house, we get into some technical aspects of filmmaking in this one, but we also talk about the comedy, performances, and unmatched energy of this early Coen Brothers madcap adventure. Hope you enjoy. Jeff, welcome to the show. What's your favorite flick?
Woo, woo. Well, you told me it's Raising Arizona. I didn't have an option on this one.
Ooh, you see, and you've gone and revealed the central lie to this show, which is that I don't really let people pick their favorite movie. I just tell them what it is, and even if they hate it, they have to come on here and defend it.
Totally. Totally. That's how we ended up here. Yeah. Yeah.
So let me see. I'm looking at my notes right now. It looks like you are the brother-in-law of our social media manager. So is that how you got on the show here?
Yeah, is that wait, I'm trying to even do the math there. Does that make Julia the social media manager?
Yes, it does. Yes, it
All
does.
right. All right, then yes, I am. Yes, I am. This is pure nepotism through my sister-in-law. She got me in. Otherwise, I had no shot of being on the show.
Well, as long as you know it. Um, so before we dig into Raising Arizona, tell me a little bit about your history as a movie fan. Like, presumably you love movies. How did you come to love them?
Well, presumably, I do love movies. I don't know. That changes when you work on movies and television shows. Um, I, well, I think like you because we are brothers. Um,
Reveal.
ah, I keep spoiling. Um, I think it is honestly HBO, like the early HBO stuff of us, just like when HBO didn't have all the money and they didn't get all the movies and they would have the same movies that they'd rerun over and over and over and we just watched them there. That was pretty formative in my cinephilic development. God, that sounds wrong, doesn't it? That
Whew.
should get me like banned from visiting schools.
I mean, it sounds obnoxious at best, even if correct.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
no, I mean, right with you. Obviously, we share this experience. And HBO in those days, like, it's not that it was all good movies, but I feel like they did curate well. Like there was a lot of crap. Don't get me wrong, but they knew when they had a winner, and they ran it again and again and again, even more than they ran the crap. I think. Um, and probably fair to mention here that we were sort of not really latchkey kids, but kind of latchkey kids when it came to viewing, and that our parents had offices at home, so we weren't alone in the house in the afternoons, but we had the run of the place, basically.
Yeah, we were the safest version of latchkey kids, where it was like, we could go to them with a real emergency. It wasn't like we'd have to run to the neighbor's house, but yeah, but we were kind of left to our own devices.
So I think fair to say for both of us, that's where we both encountered this movie as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I honestly, the first time I saw this movie when it wasn't on HBO was probably only like 5 years ago. I rented it and then I watched it a couple times leading up to this. But yeah, my experience with this movie is the way that a lot of it was just catching it on television, right? It was just like, so you pick up halfway through. Sometimes you'd be lucky enough to catch it from the beginning. If you were homesick and you were on a run, then maybe you'd see it from the very beginning. But the number of times I've seen this movie from top to tail is probably pretty few. It's more in kind of bits and starts, right? Or just being lucky enough to catch it, which made it
Yeah.
special.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly. help form your tastes in ways that you might not expect, because you see something that just never would have occurred to you to watch, and, you end up running with it and pursuing things, from there. Um, so let me ask you, I mean, we joked to a degree about, me forcing you into this one, but I don't think it was any big arm twisting on it. Um, and this is probably a long list, but top of your head, what are some of the things that make this movie so special for you?
Ah, geez. I mean, it's the style, like, just the way they tell the story, and it's kind of like, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, but that kinda manic montage at the beginning and the way the characters talk, you know? I love the way the characters talk in this movie, it's like, geez, I don't even know how deep to get down the rabbit hole already. It's
Do it.
it's, like, the way they talk, I would trace it, like, I read the things online and, listened to, Blank Check, and so I kinda got a little backstory on it, and, like, they say they based it off the Bible and magazines on how they picked the language for this, but, I mean, I it's gotta be Mark Twain, right? Like,
I
this
certainly hear that in there, and I think important to remember when the Coens say something like that, they are extremely unreliable narrators
Yeah,
of
yeah,
their
yeah,
own careers.
100%, 100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like it's kind of it's a style that is Twain-esque in that it's like lower class people with a lot of language at their fingertips with that just have these reference points that are kind of all over the place and amazing. Um, and, like, honestly, I think that even, like, if you really wanted to trace back, I think that's Shakespeare. You know what I mean? I think Twain is kinda owing, to that kind of poetic the kind of poetic speak of, uh, of working class people. I mean, so I love the way they talk. Um, it's the comedy. I mean, this movie's funny as hell, It's the timing. It's like watching a live action cartoon at times, and the action's great in it. Like, um, yeah, yeah, it's really it's everything.
Yeah, I'm thinking of this with the action in particular, but I think it can probably be said of a lot of things about this movie that they are very good about their reach not exceeding their grasp. So, like, if they had tried to go too big on the action, it might have all blown up, because it just wouldn't play. So they do it's big action, but it's big action within a realm they can capture.
Honestly, that is so well put. Like, in rewatching this, the car chase scene when Hyatt kinda, relapses and goes to steal the Huggies, like, a lot of that it's a great car chase scene, and it's very, like, Blues Brothers um or, or Grand Theft Auto, the way it plays out, but a lot of that is, like, uh, green screen or poor man's process of them in the car with some cutaways of some cars doing some nice donuts on a wet road. You know what I mean? So I remember that being like as big as a Blues Brothers chase in my mind, but in rewatching, I'm like, oh no, they did this tight and they did it on a budget, right? Like when the truck stops short, right? He flies out the front window, but like the Blues Brothers would have crashed that car into the house and then he would have
I,
flown
I
into
was
the
just
house,
thinking it. I was just thinking as you said it, they have a budget for breaking glass, but not a budget for smashing cars, and
Well
they
said,
know
well
that, and
said.
they work brilliantly within that. Um, yeah, and I think the cartoon energy of this. I mean, it's interesting that of course they show the Woody Woodpecker tattoo that both he and the biker have, but to me, it's more Roadrunner than anything else. In terms of the energy of this movie.
Yeah, I had heard, like, a while ago, I feel like that, his hair was modeled after the coyote, and I don't think I heard anyone bring that up, but he definitely looks like Wile E. Coyote in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point, and maybe I think of him as the Roadrunner because he's the one on the run, but I think the roles aren't exactly
No,
transferable, but the whole feel of it is.
And the timing and the style. Yeah.
So, spinning back for 1 second, on dialogue, just because I have my own thoughts on it, but very much bouncing off yours, is there's that specific dialect, and I actually did you ever watch Deadwood
Yeah, yeah,
on
a
HBO?
little bit.
So David Milch, the creator of that, does a similar thing where it's like these working class people, but there's Shakespearean influence. But I think what's so key in both of these is everybody just accepts the use of idiom and what we might find to be strange language. Like I think of John Goodman saying, "I'd rather light a candle than curse your darkness." And if
Oh,
anybody said that
absolutely.
to you in real life, you'd be like, "What the hell is that?" But in this movie, it just flows.
No, it totally flows. I mean, it goes with the whole thing though, because it's this kind of like spaghetti western, like larger than life, style to the whole movie. So the language is just, kind of meeting the style. Um, yeah, 100%.
I had never thought of spaghetti westerns in relation to this as much of a Sergio Leone fan as I am. What do you see as connective tissue there?
Oh my god, it's like I mean, this is a western. Like this movie is
Oh,
a western. Everybody's
yeah.
got a fucking I mean, it takes place in Arizona. Everybody's got a fucking gun in this movie. Everybody's got a gun. Um, which is interesting to watch. Now there's a lot of things in this movie that can be like coded or reinterpreted with modern issues. There's themes of addiction in it. That I don't think the movie is necessarily playing on, but it's so good you can kind of read it into it afterwards. But the for the spaghetti western, you know what it is? It's the inserts. It's the insert shots that really make it spaghetti western. So it's like when Hyatt okay. All right, let me dive into it a little bit. Okay, so what I love about the Coens is okay. Let me just take it all the way back. Let me take it all the way back. Let's get in. I'm starting to hit my stride. Okay. The way that I really like movies is when they look like moving comic books, right? Like they're so like you just like feel when they're like articulately planned, you feel like you're in the hands of a master, right? So like Hitchcock, for instance, like just the best. Like it just feels like a storyboard come to life, like a lot of like quote unquote editing in camera and the storytelling's just like so clear, right?
Hey,
Now the
Jeff, for the audience, quickly, what do you mean by editing in camera?
editing in camera would be like, okay, all right, well now we got to go all the way back. Okay, so like the way I work primarily on TV shows, the way most TV shows do it because you need so many options and there's so much changed in post. You're dealing with a longer story that you set up a camera for a shot and you pretty much go through the whole scene from that angle. And like, even if you think you're only going to use that angle for a couple words, you'd still shoot the whole scene so that you have the option to use it later. As a result, you
Right.
kind of end up popping around to a bunch of different cameras through the scene, right? So it's like, so if we're shooting us talking right now, right? It'd be like an over your shoulder looking at your video screen, over my shoulder looking at the video screen, like maybe a wide of my room so you can see my mess and my dog sitting at my lap and my coffee and whatever, a wide of you sitting in your room, and maybe like a couple of insert shots of us like messing with the mic or playing with the keyboards or whatever. And that would give us the ability to recut dialogue really easily, change the scene, move things around, right? If you're editing in camera, it like might just be one long shot of camera that starts on the back of your computer, kind of rolls around, catches your face, and comes back and like sees the video screen of me talking. And then there would be like some kind of answer shot on my end where we do the same thing, and you'd only shoot the parts of the scene that you want from that camera angle. So rather than shoot the whole scene and like the kind of shot that wraps around you, maybe you'd shoot half of our conversation doing that and then the other half on me. And that's awesome because you end up with um, like a really like you end up with that style where it feels very intentional and it feels like a comic book come to life, you know. But what you lose is the ability to kind of move things and cut things and change things, right? Um, so the Coens uh, direct like that a lot. Like they clearly, it's like kind of the old master style of making a film. You know what I mean? Because back in the day, film's so expensive, right? Uh, and they're making them really quick, right? And so you can only shoot so much because you only have so much film budgeted, and you don't want to shoot too much and give your editor the ability to fuck it up. Can we curse? Can we curse?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, curse away.
Okay, great. So these guys, like for instance, when when HI is walking with Ned, is that his foreman's name?
I think it's Ed, isn't it?
Ed. Okay. So when HI is walking with Ed outside, right? So there's the scene where she's like, Did you get the dip cat, honey? Da, da, da. And like, and HI is
Oh,
clearly this is
it's Glenn actually, by the way, which we really should
Glenn.
know, that being our dad's name.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, so like when all the pressure's mounting on HI, and then they cut outside, and HI is walking with Glenn, right? And for some reason, he's got a pair of shoes in his hands, and it's that like low angle, and it just kind of like follows them as they walk, and you even see him change out the shoes, and like you don't like cut away to his feet to make a point of it. You know what I mean? It's just kind of something that happens, right? That's kind of like editing in camera, right? Where it's like we just have this one master shot, we're gonna live or die by it. Um, you know, and so they can do that. But like as you get into like some of the action, like you start going to inserts in this movie, right? So it's like when he goes to rob the Huggy store, like one of the first shots, the convenience store, one of the first shots you see is him like grab the pantyhose off the rack, and it's just a little insert shot of that. Or like when he's like fighting Rabel Tex Cobb at the end, he like shoots him in the hand, and there's like a shot like kind of his hand catches on fire. Um, and that is like that stuff is like very spaghetti western. You know what I mean? Like you think about that like final Mexican standoff from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, right? You're like cutting around to like guns and eyes and faces and da da da. And so yeah, so that is like the spaghetti western style that I see in it. On top of just like the kind of big, broad characters, like that's obviously very spaghetti western. And I would even say big, broad characters with really deep connections, right? Because like Eli Wallach, like in those movies, is like huge. I mean, it's just like all time chewing the scenery. You know what I mean?
Right,
For
right.
for as laconic as Clint Eastwood is, Eli Wallach is that extreme in the other direction. But like Eli Wallach has like a really like deep arc. Like you feel for that character, you know? And so it's the same thing here.
And in that, and this is, I don't want to bring us too far off topic, but like Quint
Were we
is
ever
so
on topic? When were we on topic?
fair question, fair question. Um, Quint is so laconic that it is big in its own way in those movies because it is like
Indeed.
so unrealistically,
Indeed.
laconic as to be its own thing.
Indeed.
Um, in what you're talking about, that another, well, two other movies that I think about in relation to this are the first two Mad Max movies. And it's interesting as you get into this because I wasn't really thinking of this connection, but George Miller rather famously, when he was making the first one in particular, the crew did not think the movie was going to be completed because he did all these very specific shots. He didn't shoot coverage, like he just shot what he wanted on camera. So he'd do an insert of like the wheel of a car, and the crew would be like, "What the hell? Why wouldn't you, film that as part of something longer?" But he saw it in his mind and it all cut together. And so I'm just throwing that out to say I hadn't consciously thought of that connection between the two, but I have thought of these movies in connection, and I wonder if that's part of what's working subconsciously on me there and making that connection.
Yeah, I think those 2 things too, like, it's well put. Like, I would even say that, like, the style of this feels somewhere between like old master long takes and music video. You know what I mean? Where it's like where it is those like really specific inserts that we're going to, like you were talking about, like George Miller, like speaking of comic books come to life, I mean, like he literally makes it into intricate comic books and then he or storyboards, but it looks like a comic book, and then that's what he films is like those
Right.
storyboards like pretty exactly. Yeah. This feels I mean, don't get me wrong, it feels like there's a lot of intentionality to it.
Yeah, it feels like the whole thing could collapse, frankly. Like even the stuff
Yeah,
you had liked
exactly.
previously might all come tumbling down if you lost that pace and energy.
Exactly.
Uh, we jump around in movies on this, not trying to follow plot straight through, but that kind of brings me to how the movie does end. Interested in your thoughts on that ending sequence.
Well, okay, well, that like a couple things. um
Just a couple, really?
yeah. Uh, I mean, it's beautiful, first of all. It's just like downright like such a gorgeous note of hope and like so just from a story perspective, like the way they wrap it up. We've been in HI's kind of dreams a couple times at that point. And honestly, the whole movie is kind of like is HI's perspective anyway, which I think really lends allows it to be heightened like that because you're in this like big character's memories. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it kind of allows for that style. But so anyway, the end is just gorgeous, just from like a story perspective and an emotional perspective. Like you can see the kind of budget constraints, like when they show Nathan Jr. as a football player, and it's a completely empty stadium, and he's kind of pushing these guys out of the way. Now I get that that's like a style thing, and it adds to the dream element of it. I suspect if they had the money, they would have probably put people in the crowds or maybe filled up that stadium a little more.
Yeah,
Also,
they
that
they, they
stadium
couldn't
looks
they couldn't shoot at Sun Devil Stadium and have even a few thousand people to mimic a crowd the way a bigger movie might.
exactly. Yeah. They couldn't even do the poor man's process where you like, get 100 people and move them around as a plate, and then combine those people to create a crowd. Uh, and that's fine. Like that's not a knock. It's still cool that they got it and it works because it's in a dream. So yeah, and then I have a question for you. The last line, what did it say? Maybe Utah?
Maybe it was Utah, I
Maybe it
believe.
was Utah. So is that just a joke? Or is that because it I mean it is a joke, but it honestly feels more emotional than it does funny to me when he says that.
Oh, I mean, I think it's a joke. First of all, like I think it is. I mean, and when I say that, it obviously intentionally has a laugh to it because you feel like what you're leading up to is maybe it was paradise or maybe it was heaven or something like that.
Okay, can we
Um,
just dive fully in and kill the joke by overanalyzing it real quick?
oh,
Is
please,
it
please, by all means, that's what we do here. We really the subtext of this podcast is that we want to ruin movies by
okay,
overexposing
great.
them. It's actually an
Great. Well,
anti-movie podcast.
great. I'm doing a good job of that so far with my long yeah, answers.
You are. You're
Um
you're killing it.
so you is there something specifically funny about Utah? Like is that or is it just like a funny word? You know what I mean?
I
Like could he
think
have said
it's I think it's the funniest proximate state.
okay, okay.
Like
And Utah is a
New
state, not a city.
Mexico's too
No, okay.
long. Texas is too loaded with its own cinema history, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's just, that's how I read it.
Okay. Yeah. And like kind of like the vision of this character, like he's like not Bali, right? But he's like, Utah is a land far away.
Well,
Um,
but key, he says, but not too far. And
that is
so,
true.
that's where I think it plays on like the paradise and then the kind of deflating that idea a little bit, with the final line.
Yeah, deflating it, but also just like I don't know, like, there is something to it where it's like, it also provides, like, just the slightest edge of doubt for me. You know what I mean? Just that he's like, I think this movie ends happily, but just that he says, "Maybe it's Utah," I'm like, "Oh, like, maybe" like, he doesn't have it fully figured out. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they don't make it, you know?
Yeah, I agree that it ends happily, but part of my read on it though is, we're not necessarily getting a vision of what is definitely to be, but he and Edwina are back together. And that is the happy ending that we want as an audience. Like, I think, we feel, at least I feel, that these two, as nuts as they might be, are meant for each other. We're coming off the truly amazing scene with Nathan Arizona. The kind of scene where he helps to redeem them. So I read that it's a happy ending whether his visions are an accurate depiction of the future or not.
Yes. 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 By the way, that scene, that would help that is, um more like, that scene is not in camera. That scene is, like, more TV style filmmaking. The one in the bedroom with Nathan Arizona, like, that
Right.
is, like
Yeah, it's
they
it's a lot
it's
of
coverage. It's
yeah.
coverage. They shot shot 'em, and it's dialogue, and it's people talking, right? Now you have a couple specialty shots that are intentional, like, you have a little push in on Nathan like, when Nick Cage puts his arm on Holly Hunter, and he kinda realizes what's happened, you have a little push in, and that's a specialty, but most of it is just, like, they set the cameras up, and then they cut back and forth between the talking, right? So that would be, like that's a great example of not editing in camera.
Right, right, yeah.
Just to highlight the differences since we talked about it earlier.
No, I appreciate that, and I see that as, you want that scene to be somewhat simple from a
Oh,
cinematic
yeah.
point because it's such affecting performances and so emotional, from a dialogue and performance standpoint, that, you wanna simplify.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That wasn't a knock on that scene. It was just like, trying to highlight the difference in filmmaking styles, which is,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, I
so
was
incredible
just,
that they pull
putting
off.
together your frankly incoherent thoughts for our audience's benefit.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. More of that to
Yeah.
come.
So let's go full out taking things out of order here and talk about the intro to this movie, which, another part of this podcast is hyperbole, so I'm just gonna say this is the greatest intro to any movie ever.
That's not how well, you forgot about Manhattan.
I'm not don't get me wrong, Manhattan's excellent. I'm not quite the Manhattan guy that you are.
Yeah, like, if you wanna say, this is the apex mountain of movie
Oh
opens,
god.
like, I'm totally happy with that, except that we're using Apex Mountain, but yeah, yeah. It's giving you all the style, it's giving you all the energy, it's giving you all the comedy, it's giving you all the heart. It gives you everything right up front, and the
Yeah,
beautiful
and to the
imagery.
point of kind of the mix of styles, like
Yep.
it hits, and it does something that is often feels like a trick to me, but works so perfectly here, where no matter how many times I've seen it, I'm always surprised by just when the opening credits, kick in, like how far into the movie it is.
Okay, 2 things, by the way. 1, I fucking love a negative space title. I'm always trying to put them in shows, and they're always telling me no. They're also, like, surprisingly hard to do. Like, it looks like, yeah, you just kinda, like, set up the black and, like, leave the image there and it works, but a lot of times it doesn't work because the image is too busy. Even on, like, a nice sky like they have, like, a lot of times they don't work, but it's great, and they start it down in frame, and then they move it up into the sky, which is just great. And then they have like the actual names below it that are like kind of that pink color of the sky. So love the actual title design itself. And then have you ever listened to the soundtrack to this movie like separately?
Oh yeah, yeah. Carver World Score, it's fantastic.
So what's Way Out There is the name of that track, that yodeling track, right?
I'm not sure about that, but you're probably right.
I'm pretty positive. Do you know how long that track is?
It's is it like a minute something?
It's like a minute and 30 seconds, and, like
Okay.
and honestly, I think it may be 2, like, it may be 2 minutes on the actual track, but the beginning of that, a lot of it is, like, ominous synth. It opens like, "Dun, dun," and it doesn't get into the, like, picking until, like, 30 seconds in. Anyway, what a masterful use of that song. I mean, that is what? That's a 10-minute open, right? And they use a minute and a half of score. That is like, I mean, it's hard to know where Carter Burrell stops and his music editor starts, but like the music editing in that is fantastic. Like it doesn't feel repetitious, even though the song is very repetitious by nature, but they're using different parts of that minute and a half song throughout it. And they're bringing the whistling in and then they bring the yodeling in. So it still feels fresh through that whole montage. And they even drop it out at points. It's shocking to me that they're able to use that piece of music over and over and over, and, it still feels like it's building on itself.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific point. I also, it strikes me that a lot of country and folk music, which is obviously draws from, can be played very well kind of in the round, where it can be repeating type music. So no doubt to what you're saying that it takes a lot of top-notch editing work to make that work, but also the style of music may lend itself well to that, to being implemented in that way.
Can we talk about one other thing with, music and sound in the opening montage? So I watched this a couple times, leading up to it. Twice was on a television where, and I don't have like a sound bar or anything fancy, and I actually have it kind of low because my kids are sleeping in the other rooms. But once I watched it on headphones, and
I
that's
did
like,
the same thing.
yeah. So when she comes racing back in the car and she's hot, I'm barren, right? We kick into this like desert wind and it goes, and that's the score drops out and that sound carries into the doctor's office.
Oh,
And
wow. I can't say I picked that up.
And it's just such a beautiful example of sound design and like using it to continue the emotion of the story. And stylistically, they've already earned it that they can kind of do whatever they want, but it's just really, really genius, you know? And honestly, that's where you feel the budget in this movie a little bit. I mean, I know things were different then too, probably with mixing, but like I if I were going to pick nits um on this movie, one of them would be like the mix and sound design at times. There's a couple of spots where I'm like, what is that sound even? Like when they're when all the kids are in his trailer and they're all like making noise, there's like a repetitive, like, metal hitting sound over and over, and I think it's supposed to be one of the kids just, like, messing stuff up, but it's, like, so repetitive and you never really see what it is. It distracts me,
Interesting.
and then there was another one where it's, like, inside their trailer, I think it's when, uh, John Goodman and, what's that actor's name? Is it Forsythe? William Forsythe? Is that when they show up for the first time, or maybe it's when they bring Nathan home. There's like a fire crackle sound, but like I don't know. I can't tell what it is exactly. So yeah, there's a couple moments that aren't my favorite, or it's not. You just kind of feel the budget. I think you know what I mean. Like it doesn't feel like a big polished thing in certain
That's
parts.
interesting with me too, because I wonder beyond even budget, is that them trying some things that they've later really perfect? Because I mean, of course, music's talked about so much with the Coen brothers, but I think of sound as kind of being their secret weapon in that, like, I mean, things down to as simple as like in Miller's Crossing, like the sound of the bar when they're in there sounds right. And that's just one example that pops in my head. Generally speaking, their soundscapes, I think, really match their settings and the overall action. But I wonder if that's something they were still, working to perfect at this point.
Totally. Totally.
Interesting call out and things that you have a better ear and eye for than just about anybody I know. So I really appreciate your bringing that to the table.
Just doing my
Um,
job, sir.
so we've touched on this to a great degree, but I just want to make sure we call him out by name. Barry Sonnenfeld was the cinematographer, part of his incredible '80s run before he became a director in his own right. Are there things you see in here that you feel are, telling of his later work as a filmmaker or, telling of his influence on this movie?
I all right. Let me cop to something real quick. I like films and TVs, but I like storytelling in general. Like, I'm more drawn to stories, so whether that's theatrical or a book, you know what I mean, then I am like a true cinephile, right? So like, way more about movies and the people in history who make them than I do. But I know much more about how to actually make them than you, right? But anyway, that is to say that when I looked up who shot this movie, I was expecting to see Deacon's name, and I totally forgot that Sonnenfeld was their DP, and I honestly forgot he was a DP. I think of him more as a director, but I don't know his work well enough, and it's just too hard to separate the Coens from him, you know? Do you see it? Where do you see it?
So, I think the swooping cameras, stuff like the motorcycle riding up over the car and into the window, um, that kind of shot feels very much like what we would see in the Addams Family movies or Men in Black. Um, not to say that the Coens don't do things with subjective cameras in other movies, but that sort of, motion of the camera, feels very,
Okay,
like a Sonnenfeld signature to me.
interesting that you bring that up because that felt like Sam Raimi to me.
Uh, well
Because
well,
because
absolutely.
yeah, because I didn't realize that Joel was his assistant editor at some point. One of the Coens
Yeah.
was, right? I learned that in kind of researching this. I learned that from the Blank Check guys. And like that is like very Evil Dead, the thing swooping in, the evil spirits swooping into Bruce Campbell, into his big old chin. And so like, yeah, so going over the car and up the ladder felt very Raimi to me. Um,
It does, and I think Sonnenfeld may have learned from Raimi there, or there may have been exchange of
Yeah, yeah,
ideas
yeah,
there,
sure,
where they're
sure,
working on
yeah.
similar things. I don't remember if I even told you this, but I was fortunate enough on Sunday night to go see Evil Dead, at the Orpheum Theater in New Orleans with a live orchestra playing the score. The original, and man,
Cool.
seeing that on screen with the live music, not that I needed a reminder of why I love those movies, but it was a real reminder of that, and, definitely had me thinking all the more about his influence and, work with the Coen brothers.
Now, the shot that the swooping shot, what one of my favorite shots in this movie is a swooping shot, but it's when she says, "Hi, I'm Baron," and then the camera goes up above Nick Cage and swoops down. Like it does this like dolly or like it's probably a jib, but this like jib move down to his face, and it's such a weird angle to go up top and then come down, and it doesn't really fit with like the rest of what's happened so far. And that's not to say it's bad, but that is to say, uh, I don't know Sonnenfeld well enough, but like that's a swooping camera move that felt like it might have come from somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Interesting, and I could see that one maybe feeling overdone. At the same time, I read that shot as punctuating the gravity of this revelation and his realization.
Oh, it's wonderful. No, no, no. It's wonderful. It's the perfect move. Yeah, it's really different and it stands out. And but I love it.
We touched on themes just briefly, but I'm a thematically oriented guy. But I hit an interesting thing. There's some. I'd love to get your thoughts on themes. There's some things that I've had to bring up, but then it also hit me with this: like, is getting too deeply into themes undermining this movie in some way?
Yeah.
Um,
Like, before you even let me just cut you off before you make a point. Uh,
Please, no, no,
uh,
no. That was kind of an opening the floor for you.
Honestly, that is like what I was talking about before, though, when you can kind of like read things into this movie now. Like, you could write a paper on, the Second Amendment implications of this movie, right? And everybody with the guns. Although I don't think it's really trying to make a statement on that, right? You can definitely write a paper on delayed adolescence and in the American male and the Western spirit, right? You could definitely write a paper on um, the pressures of that bringing a child into the world introduce onto a relationship. You could write a paper on addiction and the criminal justice system in this movie. That said, I don't that's just a testament to how well the film is made and how much heart is there, you know? And how it's just so well made, it can just kind of hold a lot of interpretations. I'd
Right.
like if you ask me like author's intent, like I don't think they're really trying to play those themes. I mean, I would be surprised if one of them wasn't. I don't know what their personal stuff was at this moment. I would be surprised if one of them wasn't starting a family or thinking about starting a family when they wrote this script. But yeah, but I I think the the major theme is just kind of like fun, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's really what I was thinking here, and I think you're absolutely right. I think there's so much it's so well constructed and well made that you could choose a lot of things to read. But I am Mr. Theme and even beyond. Like, I'm not even a big believer in authorial intent because I think themes pop up whether an author intends them or not. But that said, and it's funny doing a podcast episodes on it saying this, like there's a real danger with this movie that if you start to break it down on that level, that you lose the fun and the humor of it in a hurry.
Yeah, this
Um,
is Tom Sawyer, it's not Huckleberry Finn,
that's a great take.
you know?
And a serious man is Huckleberry Finn.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, many of their other works are Huck Finish, you know? No Country, you know what I mean, is the Western version that is deeply philosophical, theological even, and it's like and the plot in No Country, it seems that the plot manifests from the underlying philosophy and theology of that movie, right? And in this, the plot you can draw some philosophical and theological takeaways from the plot, but the plot is the main drive of this movie.
Yeah, and it feels like anything that stood in the way of much more of a tone movie than a theme movie, I might say. That anything that stood in the way of that tone, they likely pared away.
Yeah.
That it feels like, don't know them, but it feels like that's much more what they were trying to achieve. Um,
Oh, can we talk
Another
about
thing I
things
want
that are wait, can we talk about things that are paired away? Because
yeah.
I have one. I have one. I think I'd love to know what's on the editing floor of this movie because it's so beautifully paced that like they must have chopped some stuff out. And one thing I think they had to chop out, I'd be interested to know what the first cut of that opening montage looked like because when he gets the job at the steel mill and he's got that fat
Hud
guy.
Hudsucker Industries, by the way.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah.
By the way, it's a great set. There's, like, a lot going on in like, that has to be a working factory because there's, like, sparks flying in the background and stuff, like and I don't that's not a build for those 2 shots, you know what I mean? So,
No,
Uh,
I wouldn't think so, though the art design throughout this movie is absolutely incredible, and, they're
incredible.
using real locations, they were using them from just the right angles and juicing them the right way. Like, if I'm not gonna ask you to pick a favorite, but what performance is heavily on your mind after these latest viewings?
All of them. I mean, it's
Alright,
literally all of them.
let me say Holly Hunter as a starting point then, I'll throw one at you.
Well, okay. No, I'm gonna start with Nick Cage. Yeah, I gotta start with Nick Cage because okay, what I like a big performance. Like, I don't mind when Al Pacino goes full, whatever Al Pacino does. I don't mind someone chewing up the scenery. Nick Cage is there now where he's expected to be this like big performance and is delivering that. And I heard the blank check guys with him talking about how he's like an impressionistic actor and like a tool of the filmmaking and not, embodying the character, whatever. Fine. So I'm not knocking Nick Cage, even though I know it's like kind of like fashionable now to knock the size of Nick Cage's performance. But he's for as wild of a character as he is, and for as wild as he looks, it's a pretty contained performance. Like, a lot of it is, like, pretty small, pretty like, "Yes, honey. Yes, dear," and he lets the movie be big around him, and that is, like, such a great fit, you know, for an actor who has those ideas of bigness and boldness in him to just kinda let it be big around him and he can be small in the center. I mean, it really works great. And then
Yeah, and that's a good point. He's not so big in this. He's still delightfully weird, which,
yes,
works as a center for this weird movie, but it's a weird but grounding performance in a lot of ways.
his faces that he makes like nail the cartoon vibe. Like a couple of my favorites are like when he after the Huggies caper when Holly Hunter punches him in the face and he turns to camera and he makes that like and he makes that cartoon face, that is like the coyote getting blown up by the dynamite face and then he turns back to her. Like that is fucking great. Also, excellent work by the focus puller. Nice job, First AC. Like they nail the focus on that. Yeah, and another one is like when he's crawling underneath the car when Smalls is, gonna kill
Oh,
him
yeah.
and his face and he's like one of his eyes is like half closed and like it's just like it's very like Coyote just fell, had the anvil fall on him. Like it's like so he is adding a ton to the tone and the character with just these kind of weird faces. Um
Yeah, I thought about this with Nick Cage before that he was a kid and probably an adult who constantly was pulling faces in the mirror, and just looking at 100 different things. But then he has the ability and intelligence as an actor to actually be able to put those faces into action in the real world.
totally.
I mean, the
Totally.
the real world in quotes, but the reality of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
movie he's in.
Yeah. What is Nick Cage's real world? That's a strange world. Um okay, and then Holly Hunter, like just holding down all the heart in this movie, like just like this emotional like bomb, but not even because that implies that she's gonna detonate. Just this like huge depth of emotion that's put into this character that's just like really well, I mean, one thing that it really does is it helps make them not bad guys, right? Because they are stealing a baby, right? But like you are so wrapped up in her plight and feel for her so much that you don't think of them as the bad guys, right? Like you're like, yeah, you should steal that baby. They have more than they can handle. And then she also nails the style too though. Like she can go like hot, I'm barren, is like kind of big and like and funny in a way, you know what I mean? Or my finance left me or I just love him so much, you know? Like it's funny, but it's like it's emotionally resonant. Also, you just like you you love her, so even when she's like, we're meeting with decent folk and like, she never comes off as like a shrew, you know what I mean? Like it's actually an amazing balance that they pulled because you like John Goodman, you like William Forsythe, you like Nick Cage, and you like Holly Hunter. And you're still like when she's like, "You guys got to go," even though I want to see the brothers on the run, robbing spree that they're going to go on. I want to see that movie. Like you still like her when she's like, "You guys got to go."
Here's the even more incredible one, though, to me. You like Nathan Arizona.
Oh yeah, yeah. Nathan Huffines. But
Yes. Yes.
by the way, my favorite. It's his name is, or my name ain't Nathan Arizona, and his name is not Nathan Arizona. It's so great. It's so great. That dude's
He has one
incredible.
of my favorite lines where he when they ask him what Nathan Jr. was wearing, and he says they were jammies. They had Yodas and shit all over
Yodas
them.
and shit. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. And just like he honestly, you need him. Smalls is the bad guy, right? Like he's like the real bad guy. But like, but like he's almost the bad guy. Like, you know what I mean? He's working against our heroes, but you need his heart because you want them to return the baby at the end. You know what I
Right.
mean? So like even the like no leads monologue, no leads, like that has some real heart to it at the end. Like it's yeah, it's great. Honestly, even the line there were reports that your son was abducted by UFOs. And he's like, "Don't print that. His mother will never sleep." And it's like that is like, he's the Yosemite Sam, right? But like he doesn't say like, "What in tarnation, boy?" You know what I mean? Like he has like an emotional reaction to that where he's like still kind of taking care of his family.
But there's also, and this is so Cohen's to me, there's a brilliant turn within that very short line that I think when you first hear him say, and it's hard to remember because I saw the movie so long ago initially, but when you first hear him say, "Don't print that," you think where he's going is like, that's just ridiculous.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
no, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it's so important to the way the movie wraps up that all of those earlier speeches and lines for him and like the kind of naked desperation even when he talks with Smalls, like where he's trying to dismiss him, but at the same time we feel how desperate he is to get his child back, that like all of that needs to be there, or a version of it needs to be there for that final scene in the bedroom to really work, for him
Yeah.
to be the redemptive force he proves then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just in the way that in that scene, he says of his wife, like, "I do love her so," it brings a tear to my eye every time,
Yeah.
like, it's this kinda cartoon character and, the kinda cartoon wife, and we see like, "Oh god, these are people with genuine and rich emotion, even if it's this wacky world."
Totally. Totally.
So, this is the greatest movie of all time. I'm going to say that about 200 movies over the course of this podcast, but right now I feel firmly this is the greatest movie of all time.
It's not a bad
So
choice.
I'm sure we've missed a ton here. Anything else that you had in your notes that you want to pull into the conversation?
Ooh, I mean, so much. What but like so much. So speaking about the action, circling back to the action and how they were kind of doing it on a budget and doing that car chase, a lot of it inside the car, right? They do a nice job of like spending the money on like on some big set pieces. So like there's some like big explosions, you know what I mean? That like how they did that like mushroom cloud explosion. That seems so dangerous. I don't know. Like they were just blowing shit up. Um so yeah, so it was cool to see them kind of like do something on a budget and pull off action like that. Um Really nice cut, by the way, when Randall Tex Cobb blows up. It's like he's searching his persons, and you want to be close enough to him that you can see his face so that you can get that kind of cartoonish moment, you know? But then they like pop out real quick on the explosion so that you can kind of get the full experience of the explosion, which was super cool.
I love that shot of his face because he suddenly feels like a child to me in that moment.
Oh, totally.
Maybe my favorite line in this movie is, "Sometimes it's a hard world for the little things,"
Yeah.
which we hear right after seeing him for the first time, and in that moment, I flash to, oh, Smalls, maybe appropriately named, is also one of the little things.
Mm, mm.
You know, for all his bravado, he's going up just like that rabbit.
Anything else I want to hit? Yeah, yeah. Another great Carter Burrell moment is Nick Cage is having the dream of Smalls, right? The premonition of Smalls, and you get that Sam Raimi or Barry Levinson shot of the camera going up the ladder, and then you hard cut out, and it is Holly Hunter holding the baby, and she's singing a murder lullaby, and the melody of that murder lullaby is what Carter Burrell was playing in his score leading up to that moment, which is just really beautiful, just really beautiful working together, just beautiful teamwork, beautiful filmmaking. It's like that took a lot of like excellent work from everybody. Sorry, I heard my kids yelling downstairs as I was giving that example. And then another great one similarly is when they go into the convenience store and when they go into the supermarket. um Way Out There is playing over the speakers, but it's like a Muzak version of it
Ah,
on the
interesting.
speakers. Yeah, it's great. Oh, by the way, speaking of spending your money in the right place, like clearly on that action sequence, they were like, we can't like show all the wide angles of these cars doing this crazy stuff in that chase. But then they get into the grocery store and they must have had the run of that joint because they just blow shit up in there, you know?
Yeah, I think they lied to somebody about what they were gonna be doing in that grocery store.
Clearly, yeah. Oh, yeah. Indeed.
Alright, so the way we like to wrap up here, I say that as somebody, doing, like, my 5th episode, so it's
Right.
not like we have a long tradition, but, the way we like to wrap up is to, give the audience some, ideas on other movies they might wanna check out if they love Raising Arizona or if they're intrigued by this conversation.
Uh, I would say, The Lady Killers, definitely. No, I'm just kidding. Don't watch
Well,
The Lady Killers.
the original maybe. The original one's an excellent movie, but the Coen Brothers remake's a little rough.
Yeah, every movie the Coen brothers ever made, I think would be the answer. I mean,
Um, I called out Big Lebowski in particular, which seems so obvious. I can't imagine many people not having seen it at this point, but for it's a different comic energy, but for being so suffused with comic energy. You mentioned Sam Raimi, and I think in particular Evil Dead 2 is so much of a piece with this in so many ways. And then Kiss Kiss Bang Bang's another one that comes to mind for me, the Shane Black movie.
sure. Yeah, yeah. An offbeat one, certainly more dramatic and different, but similar big language, big style, underclass, lower class characters, Sexy Beast.
Oh, great call. Great call. Well,
All
Jeff,
right.
thank you so much for your time today. You brought all kind of great stuff. Thank you for bringing both your own experience and some of your professional insight to this. All right, I will talk at you soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
Later. That's it for this one, folks. Hope you had a good time with it. I'm Brad Glaser. I host, produce, and edit the show. Julia Mott is our social media manager. The music you heard at the beginning of the show and are hearing now is by my friend Richard Bates and his band, The Huns, from their great album, To Skyward. You can find The Huns' music on Bandcamp. We'll throw up a link. Please follow, rate, review, subscribe, all the things. You can follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at Your Favorite Flick, on Letterboxd at Favorite Flick, or shoot us an email at yourfavoriteflick@gmail.com. Hans, take us out.
She spent those 2 weeks cuddling up with the sun.